Hello there everyone, Thomas Lancaster here, and in this video I want to explore with you the new ChatGPT image generation technology which is built in to the 4.0 model. It's rather a step change in providing higher quality outputs compared to the type of technology that was there before. And for people who don't know me, I'm a computer scientist based in the UK, but I'm most interested in practical uses of technology, and this is what I'm going to share with you as we go through this video. Now, I've already mentioned there's this brand new image generation model. You can access it in ChatGPT running the 4.0 model. Within that, it works quite differently to many of the previous image generators. And there are all kinds of improved capabilities that come with this model. I'm going to share a few examples with you shortly, but to me one of the most important ones is that most of the time the model can spell. It can write coherent words in English and of course in other languages, but my interest primarily focuses on English, whether you supply those words in advance or whether you let the model use its own internal techniques to determine the best words to display on an image. You can get consistency in characters from one image to the next. So you can produce things like storybooks with the same characters or comic strips. And I'm sure you can think of many other ways to do this. And frankly, just the quality of the images and the designs and the realism, I believe, is improved over many other previous models that are out there. So what kind of things might you do with this? There are all kinds of examples slotted through this video to share with you, and I've shown real examples on my X account at Dr. Lancaster and various other social media channels as well. Well, one really useful thing you can do is infographics. You can either provide all the information you'd like in the graphic yourself, or you can just say what you want an infographic on and let the system go out there and generate a nice visual representation for you. It can include charts in there. It can include processes and different steps. Incredibly useful way to present information. I mentioned image edits as well, so you can do some quite simple edits, replace something in an image, change the style of an image to a different form of artwork. You can also age people to see what they might look like. I can't say it's always 100% successful. It managed to age me quite convincingly from a single photo, even though I was hoping for a photo looking at my current age, but some of these things are fascinating. It was able to create that. As with many things, you may occasionally need to use many-shot prompting techniques to get the best results, but one-shot prompting can be pretty good. You can produce comic strips. I've produced some nice 4-panel strips with the style you might see in a newspaper with some miniature stories, and then also watch these build up over a series of days, again in the same way that a newspaper comic strip might do if you think of the traditional stories of Dilbert or something like that in the tech field. But you can also produce other types of comic books, even cover pages for comic books as well. Many people are having a lot of success with things like visual representations of products in ads. So just upload a picture of what your product looks like now and get this turned into an advert, complete with all the surrounding copy. This is a good way for producing things like landing pages as well for marketers, or for trying out ideas to see what might work best, because it is something you can experiment with until you get the result that you might want. Other things you might want to play around with, things like translation. You upload a picture in one language, you ask for the text to be replaced with another language. Now, this depends on your sophistication, your ability to check the accuracy of the output, but a useful technique depending how you want to work, particularly things like visual elements, which are not so easy to do directly with other translation type software out there. Memes is a really fun idea that I've been playing around with as well. I've noticed a bit of a tendency to recreate existing meme graphics. There are all those graphic types in memes you see repeated over and over again. For instance, it tried to generate a standard Spider-Man meme for me, even though I didn't specifically request Spider-Man, although in that case it got partway through and stopped and came up with an error message, possibly because of some of the copyright implications. I never saw the completed meme or the reason to know why. But particularly if you're directed to say to use original images, then you can get some very fun results out there. And sometimes some things that are quite funny, although humor is very situational and dependent on individuals. So this all sounds incredibly positive, I know so far, but is it really quite as positive as you might think? Well, there are certainly all kinds of dangers out there as well. You see dangers in big red letters here, that any technology can be misused, or it can be interpreted and used in different ways to originally intended. And one challenge as image generation technology gets better and better, that people can be much more convinced by something that's not real but appears to be. There's a whole level about raised expectations that because the generation quality is better, the information will also be correct. I still strongly encourage everyone to check the accuracy of the information produced, particularly if you've, for example, in the case of infographics, not supplied the data yourself, but you've relied on the system generating this. It is still possible to get hallucinated answers or answers that misrepresent the points that you intend to make. So as with anything, the more detailed your prompt is, the more information you provide, the higher the quality of the result is going to be. Images can very much be misused, as I already mentioned there. Imagine that something is treated as real when it's a piece of fake news, but things can very easily spread through social media, particularly where images now look increasingly realistic. You could have celebrities involved, you could have figures in authority as part of these. You can do things like fake a screenshot. So there are some interesting examples, for instance, of fake Wikipedia pages out there, and there are all kinds of other reasons you may end up with false information, misinformation, disinformation as part of this process. This is an example of phone conversations. This is quite a tame example where there is an apparent conversation saying to spread information about somebody which may or may not be true there. Somebody deserves it. It's amazing how quickly many of these viral stories spread across social media as well. And now these phone conversations can look more realistic. The Mike sketch version you can see in the slide. So imagine that you have an image of an iPhone on a desk, and this story is part of this image. And you can then generate that same image in different positions. You can generate multiple screens worth of that with timestamps and whatever else may convince people that this story is completely real. And there are all kinds of political risks about this as well. When I was producing this particular slide, I didn't give too much detail about what risk, and I received a part generated picture of Donald Trump saying he was old, which is the way the system had decided to represent this. Only part generated because it then came up with an error message partway through there. So this is a slightly tamer version. I did not ask, incidentally, for any particular political figure, but many fake images can be politically motivated, particularly when they look incredibly realistic. And there are all kinds of warnings here again about the potential for misinformation and how widely this can spread, because sometimes people really want something to be true regardless if it is or not. And I need to link with all of this, all the risks there are of scams as part of this. People can be very easily convinced. Think of all the cases where people think they're talking to a celebrity online. The celebrity they have never met has an urgent medical bill to pay, and they need the support of their believed lover who has never met them. But with the ability to generate an increasingly sophisticated standard of fake images, then all of these risks become much more apparent, and people who may not have fallen for them may still do so, even though the idea of these risks may not always make the most sense. So if you're going to take a message away from this video, it is certainly to look at this technology, use it is incredibly useful, but help to raise awareness of all the risks that images may not be correct, information may be fake, and to make sure there are support networks in place for the people who you know, just in case they're susceptible to this kind of information. You can make a very convincing looking fake story that appears to have been published in a newspaper, or a fake celebrity endorsement for a product that really would never consider endorsing. To bring this brief introduction to the power of the new image generation technology in ChatGPT running 4.0 to a close, I do need to acknowledge that I worked with ChatGPT as a partner to produce these slides, and indeed all of these sketchnote style images were produced using this new model. I say I worked with ChatGPT here as something of a partner because it does take a certain amount of direction. The actual process behind this is I wrote a shorter version of this article on LinkedIn, and I then loaded that LinkedIn summary into ChatGPT and asked it to generate a series of slides in this format. Now, some slides were great, some slides weren't, so I also asked it to reformat slides to make sure they were the right size, to change some of the information, to add more examples. So for instance, the example about translation came entirely from ChatGPT. It didn't come from my original examples. I've also done a little bit of cropping with the images to load them up into PowerPoint to display these slides, a little bit of moving around of areas on the slides as well for this. And there were a few occasions when things didn't fit directly in the box, so rather than wait for what is quite a slow process to regenerate those, I just made a few adjustments by hand. So for example, on the slide you see here, the two lines to the left and right of where it says ChatGPT was used to produce these slides, some of those were correct, the other one was cut off. So all I did was just grabbed the other version, turned it around by 180 degrees and pasted it on, rather than go back and wait for this, because sometimes it really is quicker to edit things by hand. But I think one thing you may notice is that the word quality and the text quality on these slides and in these images is very good. And as someone who likes sketch notes but is unable to draw them in a particularly good way, although I think there is a certain quality where you can tell this is not all handwritten, the whole style of this really appeals to me. So thank you for listening, thank you for watching. I hope you've had some ideas from this video and helped to expand your knowledge about the opportunities available through ever improving and ever enhanced image generation technology. As with all types of Gen AI, this will only get faster and this will only get better. Do feel free to connect with me. My website, my blog is at thomaslancaster.co.uk. I'm active on many types of social media as well. But for now, I shall sign out and thank you once again for joining me for this video.